Peace. Instructor Yasir, giving you guys the knowledge of survival. So, I have recently decided I wanted to commit myself to sharing this information that I have and knowledge that I have on self-defense and the martial arts and firearms and personal safety and protection and so forth, fitness, out to the world again, and wanted to start committing myself to doing YouTube videos again. And I realized that I started this YouTube channel 12 years ago, and if you look back that far, you'll still see some stuff, that I recorded from when I was still in my teacher's school, in the dojo. And it occurred to me that I never actually took the time to give people my story or my background and why I even think that I have anything of value to share with people when it comes to self-defense and personal protection. So I wanted to take that opportunity to do that for you guys now. So I started training in the martial arts. I'm a martial arts guy first. That's what I love the martial arts. Beyond just the skill of protecting yourself. I love the whole ethos of martial arts, the warrior spirit, the discipline, the history, everything about that. Even the softer side of the martial arts as well. The health, the breathing, the meditation, the Bushido code, the honor and respect, all those things. I love all that. So I'm a martial arts guy first. So I really started training with the martial arts. I first started training martial arts back when I was a kid. My parents put me in a Taekwondo class because I loved the martial arts back then, but I didn't have the discipline for it. They had us in there doing a bunch of exercise, push-ups and all that stuff, and I wanted to come out doing flying, jumping side kicks day one. So I didn't have the discipline for it back then as a child. But I always wanted to get back into it, especially as I got older, when I got in my early 20s. Because, late teens, early 20s, you all know how that is. You're kind of at that stage of really starting to come into who you are. And I really wanted to get back into the martial arts. I wanted to learn how to protect myself. I wanted to have those skills, and I was looking for something that was serious. I wanted a serious martial art, something that really gave some real skills is what I was looking for. Because I was 22, 23 years old at the time. So still very young. We're talking about, 20 years ago now. So still very young, but, an adult, right? An adult, but still super young, just became an adult, basically. And, but I wanted something serious. I wasn't interested in tournaments or competitions. I didn't have that desire. At that time, I kind of felt like that was a kid thing, the trophies and the tournaments and all that. So I wasn't looking for that. I wanted something that was going to be a serious art, something that really gave me something, really gave you something. So I checked out a couple of martial arts schools. I checked out, it was a Taekwondo school I went to that also taught Hapkido. And so I went and checked that out, didn't participate in the class. I just went to just kind of oversee, check it out, right? Just kind of gauge the vibe of it, see if it was, a fit. And it was cool. They gave some good stuff, but it still didn't have it. Still didn't have what I was looking for. So at this exact same time, in this same time period, I had also started studying the 5%, Nation of Gods and Earths, and 120 lessons. So it's customary, in that you get with somebody in person. Even back then, people were getting the information online, but not like it is now. But even back then, the information was available online. But I wanted to do it the proper way, so I reached out to some people, and they put me in contact with a brother that was local to my area in Chicago, and I got with him, and me and him were talking early on, and he was talking about he was talking about training. He was talking about the martial arts and stuff, and I told him, I said, man, yeah, I want to do that. I want to train too. So he was like, oh, he's like, yo, all right, you can come get with the guy that I'm training with. I'm training with the fifth Dan. I'm training with a fifth Dan. That's how he was saying, like, I'm training with a fifth Dan black belt. That's a fifth degree black belt, for those that don't know. And he explained to me a little bit about the martial art. The system was VSK Jiu-Jitsu. Never heard of it before. So he was explaining it, to me, and talking about, it's these locks and throws and, and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm interested. So I went to a class with him and liked it. I liked the vibe of it. I liked the energy. Had a lot of warrior energy to it. So I said, all right, cool. That's what I'm gonna do. Cause he was getting private lessons with this brother at the time. So I started training with him as well. Then shortly after that, the brother that introduced me to it, he had a falling out with our teacher, and so he broke off. I continued. My first teacher was Shihan Amir Muhammad. And Shihan Amir Muhammad is Grandmaster Abdul Aziz, formerly Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad, son. That's his son, from Chicago. Actually, they're from New York. So they're from New York, Brooklyn, New York, I believe. And but they had been in Chicago for a long time, and so I was training with him, 5th degree black belt, his son, and so that's who I was training with. Great teacher, a lot of energy. Me and him, close in age. He's a few years older than me. But the difference, he had been training in the arts since he was a little boy, so even though me and him were about the same age, vastly different in terms of his knowledge and skill set. So I was training with him. Great stuff. We worked out hard. That's a hallmark of the system. It's hard physical workouts. So we worked out hard, and, classes were an hour and a half. The first 30 minutes is all workout. And it's consistent. You're doing a lot of jumping jacks, a lot of push-ups, a lot of crunches, sit-ups, squats, all of that stuff. Burpees, whatever, right? So, or whatever, just creative exercises he might come up with. And so that was great. Good training with him. I was with Shihan Amir for about a year, and I earned my yellow belt with him. Tested for my yellow belt with him, and earned my yellow belt with him. And it was a hard test. Going from white to yellow was no joke, because I ended up testing with his father. His father administered the test to me. I ended up testing with some other brothers that was going for higher ranks So I was with some people who was going for green belt, some brothers who was going for purple belt, even a brother that was going for brown belt. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was Brother Elijah Farrakhan. Brother Elijah Farrakhan, who is one of Minister Farrakhan's sons. And he was real cool with my teacher, Amir. So I used to train with him as well. We all used to train together. And I believe when I was testing for my yellow, he was testing for brown. And it was funny because he wasn't expected to be tested. He was just there. We were at Grandmaster's dojo. So Grandmaster had a dojo in the basement somewhere. It was the basement of this building, man. It was on the south side of the city. And he was in the basement of this building someplace. I can't remember where it was at this time. I want to say it was off of Cottage Grove in Chicago. But anyway, man, we was in his basement, and I was there to test. Some other brothers was there to test, and Brother Elijah did not know that he was testing that day. And Grandmaster came in there. He was like, yeah, we tested. He was like, so, you tested, right? That's how he hit him. He just hit Elijah like, yo, so you testing, right? And so, when Grandmaster gave you an instruction, and even like that wasn't a direct instruction, but it was implied. You didn't say no. That's just how it was. So, Elijah was like, yo, I guess I'm tested, So he was like, I remember he was over there saying his prayers and everything. So, yeah, that was very interesting, man. Like that was very interesting. So I went through the testing with these other brothers. Of course, my test was done way before theirs. Like as a yellow belt, I think my test was like, as a yellow belt, my test was like 3-4 hours, somewhere in that arena. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, not as a yellow belt, as a white belt, going for yellow. My test was somewhere in the arena of like 3 to 4 hours. So it was crazy. That was my first testing experience. It was nuts. And I was like, man, and those other brothers, it was crazy. So, I mean, they in there doing break falls on concrete, doing break falls on the wood. They getting thrown on the wood. It's crazy. This is my first testing experience, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, yo. I'm like, man, like, what have I gotten myself into, right? So, but I was committed. I was committed because I wanted to learn. So, earned my yellow belt, continued training with Amir, and a few months after that, Amir let me know that he was leaving Chicago to go back to New York. So he was going to go back out to New York for a little while. He didn't know if he was going to be there permanently or coming back or what. So he let me know that he was leaving. So, but he was connecting with me, and setting me up so that I could still continue to train. So he was like, well, look, he's like, as far as Chicago goes, man, you can either get with my dad or you can get with Lemuel. So Lemuel Muhammad was another one of Grandmaster Anthony at the time, currently Grandmaster Abdul Aziz, one of his top students in Chicago. His top student that was actually from Chicago was Lemuel Muhammad. Him and my teacher, trained a lot together, came up together, through the ranks and so forth. But, they weren't super tight, I'll just put it like that. had some run-ins here and there. But Amir couldn't deny that Lemuel knew his stuff. He couldn't deny that. So, he went and told me that that's where I should go. I should go with either one of them. So I reached out to Grandmaster first. At the time, Grandmaster's schedule that he was teaching didn't fit with my schedule, so I couldn't do that. So so Amir put in the word for me to also train with Professor Joaquin Jackson. Professor Joaquin Jackson, another, deadly, phenomenal martial artist out of Chicago. He's an Aikido guy. His base is Aikido, but he trained, he cross-trained a lot in Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu with Dr. Moses Powell and Grandmaster Anthony as well. He also trained with Soke Lil John Davis and so forth. So, but Professor Joaquin, it's cold, right? So, so Shihan Amir had plugged me with him too. He had put in the word like, hey, I got a student out there. I'm going to New York. Is it cool if he comes and trains with you, or till he figure out whatever he's gonna do? So I had that plug. I went to Professor Joaquin's classes a few times, but I didn't commit there. I really just kind of, when Shihan Amir left, I kind of took a break, for a few months, just kind of figuring it out. So the brother that originally put me on, he started training with Lemuel. So he told me, hey, I'm training with Lemuel, the training's good. He got a school that's opening up, and you should come over here since Amir is gone. So I was like, all right, cool. I went, checked it out, trained with him, saw that the flavor was basically the same, a little bit different, just because of difference in teaching styles, but the flavor was the same, same system, same stuff. So I was like, cool. So I started training with Shihan Lemuel. And so started training with him. And that became my chief instructor. I was with Lemuel between 2000. What? We talking about maybe 2006? I was with Lemuel from like 2006 until around 2013. Somewhere in there. And with him, I went from yellow through black belt. I'm actually his first black belt, that he produced. When it came time for me to test for my black belt, he sent me to his teacher, Grandmaster Abdul Aziz, formerly Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad. So I went through my black belt test with him. So Grandmaster Abdul Aziz certified my black belt. He stamped me as saying, yo, he knows the system. He's official. So I appreciate my teacher for that. And I'm eternally grateful to him for that. And I'm eternally grateful to Grandmaster for giving me that opportunity to train with him and be certified by him.